We're going back to the early 1900s with this unsolved case. During May 1918 to October 1919, a madman stalked the streets of New Orleans and surrounding villages. This area was in a state of terror as a person was breaking into people's homes and murdering them. To add to the horror, the choice of weapon was an axe, which often belonged to the victims. The story is wild, so let's get into it.
Welcome to our channel, where we talk all things true crime. This video is for educational purposes. We do give our opinions at the end, but please do your own research.
This serial killer became known as the Axeman, and to this day has never been identified. The Axeman's preferred victims were Italians and Italian immigrants. As the number grew, a pattern developed. The killer would enter a home by removing a panel from the back door with a chisel. Both of these items would be left on the floor near the door. The killer would use an axe or straight razor to attack one or more of the residents. It became clear that the crimes were not being committed by the intent of robbing the home, as nothing was ever taken.
The Axeman began to target Italian grocery stores in New Orleans during May of 1918. The Axeman would enter the store in the dead of night and attack the grocer and their families. This left several people hurt and 4 people dead. The first known victims of the Axeman was Joseph and his wife Catherine. Joseph's head was cracked and his throat was slit with a razor. Catherine's throat was also slit. During this time, there were several other attacks that were not Italians that were suspected by the work of the Axeman, but was later disproved. This didn't alleviate any of the rising panic in the city. The Italian community was obviously terrified since they were the main focus of the serial killer. The press stated that men would stay up all night to protect their families.
The attacks continued through the summer of 1918. On June 27th, another grocery store owner was attacked by an intruder and was beaten in the back of the store. Louis Bessemer and his companion, Harriet Lowell, were seriously injured. Louis had slashes across his right temple with a small hatchet. Harriet was unconscious when the officers arrived. She had deep cuts over her left ear. Both survived the Axeman. A woman named Anna was the next victim. She was attacked on August 5th, 1918. Anna was 8 months pregnant at the time. Anna woke up to a person standing over her. She was unexpectedly struck in the face. She too survived her injuries and just 2 days later gave birth to a healthy baby.
Just 5 days after Anna's attack, the Axeman struck again. On August 10, 1918, Joseph Romano was being attacked in his room. Joseph's 2 nieces, Mary and Pauline, was woken up by the sounds of their uncle. They went to his room to see the Axeman fleeing the house. Joseph died 2 days later due to severe head trauma. So far, the Axeman had attacked 4 households. Everyone in the city was on edge from the rampage. After Joseph, the attack suddenly stopped. The police had no luck in finding any leads to who could possibly be the Axeman. As there were no attacks for over 6 months, the city began to relax a little. Then in March 1919, the Axeman struck again.
This attack was a little different in the fact that it was not in the city, but a nearby town, Gretna, Louisiana. Charles and Rosie Cortimaglia were attacked along with their daughter Mary. Screams could be heard coming from the house. When neighbors came to help, they found both Charles and Rosie with severe head injuries, and Rosie was holding her daughter in her arms. Charles and Rosie were able to recover. Unfortunately, Mary did not. The Axeman laid low for the next 6 months before attacking a 19-year-old woman who lived alone. On March 13, 1919, the local newspapers published a letter supposedly from the Axeman. He said that he would kill again at 12:15 a.m., just a little after midnight on March 19th, but would spare any occupants that were playing jazz music. That night, every dance hall was filled to capacity, with both amateur and professional bands playing jazz music at hundreds of house parties in the city. There were no murders that night.
Steve Boca was a grocer that was attacked on August 10th in his sleep. Boca had awoken to a dark figure standing over him. Steve did regain consciousness and had ran to a neighbor's for help. Steve's head had been cracked open and he had collapsed and lost consciousness again. Once again, the Axeman did not take anything and the panel on the back door was broken. Steve did recover from his injuries but couldn't remember anything about the attack. On September 3rd, 1919, Sarah Lawman was attacked. Neighbors became concerned when they had not seen Sarah for multiple days. They found Sarah in bed, comatose with head injuries, and she was missing several teeth. The attacker came in through an open window and attacked Sarah with a blunt object. There was a bloody axe found in the front yard of the building. Sarah did recover from her attack, but she had no recollection of it.
Another attack happened October 27th when a man named Mike Pepitone was assaulted. His wife was awakened by a noise and she rushed into the bedroom to find a huge man wielding an axe fleeing the room. Mike was severely injured and died as a result. Mike's wife stated that the entire room was covered in blood, including a painting of the Virgin Mary. Mike's wife was not able to give a good description of the attacker. After the attack on Mike, they had stopped again. To everyone's knowledge, this was the last attack from the Axeman.
The Axeman has never been identified, and the attacks seem to end as quickly as they started. There has been some theories about who the Axeman was, but nothing solid has been brought forward. Some think that it was not a serial killer, but multiple attackers. There's also a few theories connected to the mafia.
So what do we think?
We thought there would be more jazz.
I thought there would be.
I've heard this story before.
Me too, primarily on AHS.
Oh yeah, they did.
Yeah, on this third season. I mean, I heard the case before that.
I think it's been mentioned in a lot of pop culture references to it.
Yeah, so I thought there was jazz all the time, not just that one time.
That there was that letter that was mailed and then they published it. Let's publish this and scare people more.
Well, in the letter, didn't it say hell and then the date?
Yeah, it was weird. The whole letter was
like the letter
weird.
was from hell.
Yeah, and then he wanted to go back. But that person just, it seemed very theatrical. I guess there was rumors that the person, not necessarily the killer, but the person that had sent in the letter was a musician that played jazz, and it was a way to promote jazz music.
That's crazy.
I guess opportunists are gonna opportune.
Opportunists gonna opportune.
But there was no murders that night, so would there have been any killings or not?
Was it just a coincidence that there wasn't any when they all played jazz?
And it was New Orleans in the early 1900s.
They still play jazz down there.
Yeah.
I've been there.
I have not.
So we're walking around in New Orleans, and I'm just like, why are the roads wet? It was literal sewage. They have to spray the streets off every morning. I think there's something going on with their whole sewer system.
And it was never updated?
I don't know. I don't think so. They got all those cemeteries above ground.
Mausoleums. I want to go see those.
So I went down with a group of 10 people. We all carpooled, and nobody was really interested in all that stuff but me.
Yeah.
Plus, a hurricane had just come through.
Oh.
And so a lot of the caskets and stuff had been washed up.
I would like to go to New Orleans in the fall, I think.
Yeah.
Where it's not hot, but it's more like spooky vibes. Because I know they have a lot of
Tours
about like haunted places around there, but also they have a lot of the voodoo people.
Yeah. Marie Laveau's, who I thought of.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think? Have you heard of this case? What are your theories about who did it? Do you think it was one person or multiple people? Let us know in the comments below.